I was really happy to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and just thought that was going to be the fundamental of success. I think I got there through failure. I'm going to remember what it felt like to lose this person or lose this $200,000, and this is what I'm going to do now to make sure I go here. And you keep stacking those losses that turn into wins, and after years and years, I suppose that's where you slowly just learn and get better at what you do. My new sort of personal motto is build a company that can fit the dreams of every employee within it. Who you hire into your business is crucial to the success of it, and now I've sort of got this saying, if we put someone into business, they've got to raise the overall bar as a minimum standard for the company as a whole.
This is Kyle from Zanetto Builders. At 32, he's built one of Tasmania's most respected custom home building companies and co-founded Future Builder to help the next generation avoid the costly mistakes. In this raw conversation, this isn't just another success story. It's a masterclass in resilience, systems, and building something bigger than yourself.
Welcome to the Inspired Builders podcast, your source for game-changing conversations with Australia and New Zealand's leading builders and industry experts. Each week, we deliver real stories and proven strategies from those who've been in your shoes. Ready to build something remarkable? Let's dive in.
Kyle, big thank you for coming in today. It's a chat I've been wanting to have for a long time. Hear your name a lot in the industry, and I've followed you and what you've done for a long time. And you just keep going in one direction, which has been really cool. So I'm keen to unpack that today. What's gone into making that a reality, and how have you achieved what you've achieved? What's behind it? Ideally with the goal of inspiring a lot of builders who listen to this channel. So yeah, thank you.
No, you're welcome. It's been a good trip up from Tassie. Gets me out of there and into a bit of sunshine. So any excuse is a good one.
A little bit warmer up here. I was chatting to one of our guys down Tassie just yesterday. And I was like, if I was going to come down and surf for a Gold Coaster, when would it be too cold? And he's like, now. Now it's already too cold. Yeah. I think he was being kind, but he probably did want to say,
East Coast, down St Helens, mate. That's where all the breaks are. That's where I went.
Check that out. But maybe if we could jump into, I've heard you talk a little bit about it on in other places, but take me through a bit of your childhood.
Yep.
Because as we were talking about off camera, every builder is different. Every builder has a different story, and that story we see as from where you've come from and who you are becoming. It's all your story. And so talk me through a bit of your childhood and what you think from that perspective helped shape who you are today, and what you still draw on from those days, or what you maybe in hindsight can see of your childhood that has helped you today. Yeah,
cool. So my childhood had nothing to do with construction, which is quite interesting. Okay. Residential building construction.
Okay.
My old man was a civil contractor, so I probably spent a bit of time in the diggers and the trucks and the rolls and bobcats and all that sort of moving around. But for me, it was never part of my life growing up to think to be a residential builder. I was just a young, super energetic kid. So I lived in sport from when I could sort of kick a football. I was kicking the Sharon around, and then I was into my little athletics. So I was a good sort of long distance runner, held some state javelin records. I think I've still got one that's like 23 or 4 years old now.
Wow.
From back in the day, so I did have a bit of an arm on me. Tried my hand at like swimming, tennis, basketball, everything that could be played, I sort of played it. And then as I got older, you've obviously got to drop things off, so I just tipped into the footy space. So I was always an avid St Kilda supporter. Grew up following people like Robert Harvey and Stewie Lowe and Nathan Burke from St Kilda, and like football was sort of my life up until my high school years. And I was pretty educational as well. Won a few awards at school for like mathematics and stuff. Anything to do with numbers made sense. When it came to English and writing and creating stories, that was not my thing. It just didn't make sense. I'm a sort of very analytical, data-driven dude, as you can probably see. By my business. Anything that can be calculated to an outcome is something I'll look into. So super athletic, pretty academic when it came to maths, and just a highly motivated individual. So I think we spoke about over a coffee before. I was sort of like Rocky growing up was my thing.
Like, how many times do you reckon you watched Rocky growing up?
I used to watch it every Saturday before I played football as a kid.
Yeah, right.
And I'll just watch the last fight. Like when it was like Rocky versus Apollo, or
Gets back
Rocky
up.
fought Ivan Drago, or Rocky fought Mr. T.
Yeah.
And I'd watch like the last 5 rounds and I'd be fucking amped, and I'd just be out that footy field just to destroy it. Yeah. And that was sort of like my ritual. And that was probably where I picked up a bit of that like never give up attitude.
Yeah.
So that was the Rocky story. It's a bit old now. I watch, what are the new ones? Creed. So that's sort of like the follow on.
Yep.
But yeah, even watching them like goosebumps when I watch the final fights and that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's what from you shared a little bit about over coffee earlier, that transition into the building space.
Yep.
Which just sort of happened quite organically. You didn't plan. It wasn't planned, or
Nah, it was pretty random. So high school, I suppose, is probably a bit different now. Like back when I was in high school, which wasn't all that long ago, 15 years or something, most of us lads wanted to be tradies. Like you wanted to be a sparky, plumber, electrician, chippy, or whatever. That was just what we sort of did. So I got a job at the local supermarket when I was 14 and 9 months, like as young as you could kind of get a job. And I just worked in there, 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 4:30 till 7 after school.
Yep.
And then I'd do a 10-hour Sunday.
Okay.
Pretty well every Sunday. And I did that shift for 10 years straight, even after I started my construction company.
Wow.
And that sort of work ethic led me to be able to get my first house halves with my dad at 17 years old.
Wow.
And that was sort of the first property investment I made. But yeah, it sort of didn't really lead into construction. I was always quite academically smart, so I was going to go into civil engineering. And that was the plan. I sort of went through high school and then dove into college because I also wanted to do the party years and that. So you can't miss out on college, I don't think. And then, I'd got to that age, and then I'd party on the Saturday nights. I'd turn up hungover as shit on a Sunday and have to pull a 10-hour Sunday shift, and I'd get all the sort of builders coming through, and I sort of got to know them name by name. And there was this one guy used to buy a 2-litre Farmers Union iced coffee every day and knock the whole thing down. So I'd see him every day, and one Sunday I was just like, mate, I think it was like 30 degrees outside, and I said, I'm sick of being in here, can you give me a job? And he's like, yeah, start tomorrow. So about 400 metres up the road I started a deck, and that was how I got into building.
Nice. Wow. What I found interesting about that story, when you continued on with it, you mentioned that you worked with him for a year or two, and then he folded, and then you went back there, and then you asked the next guy, and he's like, yep, start tomorrow, and you're back at it. Just that, to me, I thought was pretty cool. Like some people have been like, okay, this is not for me. This didn't work out.
Yep.
But you're like, nope, who's the next guy I can ask?
Yeah, and everyone's had this kind of boss. My first boss was bloody hard. Like I'd do 12 hours a day, not get paid for travel to and from. We're an hour away from work. I'd go and do his gardens and wash his car on a Saturday for free. I think I was getting like $6.30 an hour. And he'd just drive you. Like there'd be no like happy conversations. You'd just be there to work. And there was 3 of us. There's a guy that I used to work with called Hayden there, which was awesome. And then he sort of left, and then it was just me and the boss, and we ended up doing a big house down at a place called Tamashana, which was about an hour drive, and 7 months to and from every day, barely any conversation in the car, slogged me. And then one day he just went off at me because when I was tipping the glue from one glue bottle in the other, it wasn't coming out quick enough. He just started screaming at me. So started walking home. It was like, 70 Ks, and then kind of quit that job and rolled back into the supermarket the next day. Yeah. And then another builder come through. I was like, hey, mate, need a job. Can I have a job? And he's like, start tomorrow. So kicked off with another one. But as tough as that first boss was, I love him for what he did because it trained me into just working. Yeah. And it's sort of a different mentality these days on site. Like we used to push through smoke on lunch if we had a concrete pour, and there'd be no stopping. Just got drilled into me. Yeah. And that was probably what I suppose taught me the fundamentals of how to work hard, but also how not to lead and how to not keep staff as well. Yeah. So that was something that came into the business later on in life.
Wow. Yeah. I know we'll jump more into leadership because it's a big part of who you are and how you are. That next generation of builder that you're bringing up, which is epic. Talk me through. And then you eventually started Zanetto Builders.
Yep.
In that early stage of starting Zanetto Builders, talk me through what were some of the biggest misconceptions about business that you had then.
Hard work will make you money.
Okay.
It's probably the biggest one. I was really happy to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and just thought that was going to be the fundamental of success, but realised that that's how you get good at what you do. But running a profitable business is a completely other ball game. I was a good carpenter, could concrete, lay tiles, put roofs on, hang plaster, do all that, and that's where the sort of name got built. We were the young, loud, outgoing builders that just got shit done. But then that only works for so long until you start losing $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 on a house because you don't understand the fundamentals of business and overheads and markups and margins and all that. And that was where I needed to shift my learning from being a carpenter or a good builder to learning how to run a business, because the numbers was something that I never sort of did. It was just charge yourself out at $50, put a 10% markup on the job, you'll take 10% profit, and I thought that was going to happen, but it didn't. The bigger we got, the bigger the problems became financially.
Talk me through some of those challenges in the beginning, just because what I don't want to do in this podcast is go, oh yeah, you were there and now you're here. How's that? That was easy, because it's not easy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lessons along the way. Talk me through some of those early challenges, specifics that you can go into, so other guys can go, you know what, I'm having that challenge too. It's not, I'm not alone, and I'm not, the dumbest person in the industry.
So I felt like the first 2 years of business, challenges don't really pop their head up. Okay. It was me employing a heap of mates that I knew from school. We would just work hard for a decent hourly rate. I didn't have any running costs. I'd be running out of the cupboard at home or whatever I was doing, Harry Potter style, just with a computer set up. And I didn't have the running costs behind me. So winning work was quite easy. We were cheap. We worked hard, so getting the work wasn't an issue. And then as we started to grow, the challenges started to become around qualifying the right clients. I started taking on jobs that I probably shouldn't have for margins and costs that I didn't understand. And like I mentioned before, the bigger the business got, the more those issues became prevalent. But I still didn't know why, so I would just work harder. And I used to do 80 to 100 hours a week most weeks,
thinking that would solve.
You just work harder. If I do a sad day and charge myself out at probably back then $50 an hour or something, I probably would charge myself out and put a bit in the bank, and the boys would do the same, do a half day sad day, then we'd go eat the piss and head out, and that was it. That was the routine. So I suppose I didn't really have any challenges until the second or third year, when the financial side of things started catching up to me. Apart from personal and physical burnout. So I had a couple of pretty serious injuries, one with my left leg and one with my right hand, which has left me unable to work now. And then being a business owner, being like early 20s, you're that motivated, and pain is not an acceptable solution, like to just not work. So I just pushed through it, and then working those sorts of hours, I just became like a machine sort of thing. And I think outside of work with bodybuilding and everything else I was doing in that space, I was quite emotionless. And for my family at home, I was just like this person that didn't have that sort of connection. I was just so burnt out and exhausted and focused on just getting through what I was doing over here that I didn't have any emotional space for anything else in my life. And that was sort of a repetitive theme over the next 7 or 8 years, and something I'm still sort of dealing with, is trying to find that balance. And being able to hold that emotional space for more than just work, and keeping myself trying to be healthy and physically fit, because that's sort of my outlet away from business.
What have you found to be helpful in that space? Because as an observer, it looks like you enjoy working hard. You enjoy putting good in, putting it through the machine that you've built, whether it be you, the business, the process, whatever, and then you get reward from the outcome, satisfaction, whatever that may be. How do you go about not burning out now and creating that emotional space?
Still something I'm definitely working on. Like, I went through a period of burnout probably a year ago, was sort of the last time. But I understand why now. So me, I've got ADHD, and for me to be able to sort of self-regulate, I need a physical outlet. So before I became injured, I would be able to run, throw a ball, go to the gym, go wakeboarding, play golf, do all the things that gave me sort of that outlet away from business to bring me back down to that level where I was happy. But then when I started getting these sort of chronic injuries and the pain to have to go to work and use my hand, or try and go to the gym with a broken leg or whatever it was, became too much. I became quite miserable. And then my sort of only dopamine hit that I could find was by progression at work. So I would bury myself in work, and that would be 6-7 days a week.
Yeah.
And when you're sitting there looking at a screen or anything for 12 to 14 hours a day, you just get trapped in this sort of time loop that's just what you do every day, and there's not much sort of emotional capacity left for anything else. So for me now, especially this year I have gone down to Stephen Bartlett. I haven't been setting morning alarms. If I need to sleep, I'm trying to let my body sleep. So that's something I've never done. Like last year I was 4:30 up and I was passed out by 9:30.
Yeah.
And I was just exhausted. Whereas this year I'm trying to let my body sort of self-regulate.
Yeah.
And I also make sure that when I knock off at 4 o'clock, I don't work from home.
Yeah.
So I've kind of just put that line in the sand, because I would go home, go to the gym till say 6:30. My partner at the time would cook us dinner. I'd be sitting on the computer till 8, go to bed. She'd try and talk to me. I'd be too exhausted, and within half an hour I'd be asleep. And that was what led to the deterioration of multiple relationships in my life.
Yeah.
So this year's all about knocking off, setting boundaries about working hours.
Yeah.
And tracking it. So every day I get a message to my phone. I track my working hours in the day, my professional development hours, and then that gets logged back into a PDF report, and I can see that last year I was working 240 to 260 hours a week in Zanetto Builders, and now I'm back to about 130, 140 this year. So that's how much I've cut out of my working hours.
Wow.
So it's a lot.
It's
2 full weeks.
Sure.
So yeah, balance. But balance is also hard for me, because I'm so highly motivated, and what I'm doing is for a bit of a higher purpose. I'm obsessed with it. And you see all these dedicated people like your LeBrons and your Bryants and your Gogginses and all that, and they were the sort of people that I listened to as mentors going through tough times and burnout, and I was like, you just need to keep hustling, Kyle. Like, just keep doing it. If you want to be great or you want to be the best at what you do, this is how you get there. So it's got a motivating side, but it's also got a consequence and a toxic side to it as well that's going to have consequences.
Yeah, it is interesting. A lot of those guys you mentioned, you wonder what, do they get burnout, or do they just not publicise it, or what does it look like for them? Or because you hear some of those guys talk about, like one guy mentioned, I was listening to, he's like, burnouts, you get burnout when you just, it's a combination of like, you think you're working hard and everyone around you's telling you, oh, you're working so hard, you're working too hard. One of the guys I listen to, amongst many, and it sounds like we're listening to a lot of the same guys, talk about burnout. You can fall into that trap of feeling burnt out if you're listening to people who are saying, oh, you're working so hard. But that's coming from someone who works a 37.5-hour week, you know what I mean? And goes, oh, you're working so hard, wow. Yeah, like, and then you can think, but he was saying as well that if you're getting a lot of reward from working hard, that can be a lot of fuel. You don't need. How were you able to measure what's enough? Why? How were you able to pinpoint what was burning you out, sort of thing?
For me, I'm that guy that's enough is never enough.
Yep.
And like I sort of need to practice a bit of like self-recognition. Like, yeah, I think it was what my partner mentioned to me, old partner at one point there, when I won Young Builder of the Year. The next day I was just like, okay, like, what's next?
Yeah.
Like, I've never sort of been one to sit and enjoy the moment, and that's something I definitely need to practice. But for me, burnout wasn't really an option until it hit me. And I think I told you earlier, when I was bodybuilding and I was doing like the 4:30 a.m. till 10, 11 p.m. every night, 6-7 days a week, there's multiple times, probably 3 or 4 in my life, where I've got to a point where I'll be driving along and I'll just sit there and I'll burst out crying. I have to pull over. Like, you hit this wall and you're just so emotionally exhausted. And when that sort of adrenaline or that goal that's really driving you sort of goes into the shadows a bit, and you forget why you're doing, you're like, I just can't do it anymore. And I think I was talking to someone the other day about like ADHD burnouts, a sort of common trait. And I think that's definitely something that I've sort of picked up. I'll hyper-focus on a goal or something for, say, 2, 3, 4 months, and I'll just flog myself silly.
Yeah.
Just
go
and
super deep into that cave and then...
Yeah, yep. And I'm, sort of a quick learner, and I like to jump into things really head first, really fast, and then I start to lose intensity with it as well.
Yeah.
It's not a fun time.
No, definitely not. One thing you mentioned there, which is something I agree with, and I've heard some of these big people talk about, is having the purpose and the importance of having a higher purpose of what you're doing. You know, you're not just building this house to get payday. There's a much higher purpose there, and that can be a huge what's what I'm looking for, softener or helper when it comes to not burning out.
Yeah.
If you're working towards a much bigger purpose, a bigger goal, bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Talk me through what that is for Zanetto Builders and how you have come to arrive working towards this purpose.
Yeah. So it's an awesome question, and I've been sort of thought about this in the past, and I think over the last 10 years my purpose has shifted 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
Initially, it was just about working hard and building a strong brand and building a name.
Yeah.
In the last sort of 2 or 3 years, my new sort of personal motto is build a company that can fit the dreams of every employee within it. So I went through a phase there a couple of years ago where I had some really key team members leave. I've had it multiple times actually go and start their own company. And I said, how
Well,
can
that was a question that was going to come up in today's chat, because
Yeah.
from what I've gathered and heard and spoken to guys who work with you, you train them up really well. You know, so in some ways it's a huge award.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I've got to love them for it, because I did the exact same thing. When it first sort of happened, when I lost, say, 4 guys and then 5 guys to new teams, it really hurt, and it was something I'd struggled with emotionally and had a lot of anxiety around it. Now I'm just proud of them. But yeah, for me now, I think I mentioned earlier, I'm actually looking to saw the future of Zanetto Builders and how I can keep people in this company for the rest of their lives. And about to do that, you've got to provide them the opportunity to learn, grow, and be financially provided in a more secure and less risky space than what they would potentially do if they were to go and try it themselves. So that's what I'm doing over the next year or two, is setting up those sorts of models.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I think, I don't know whether it was just I had to prove myself that I could do this was what drove me first. Maybe it was a bit of self-recognition I was looking for from my dad, because he was pretty tough and ran a successful business. So I was like that little son trying to come up to show daddy he was proud or whatever. I didn't sort of get that growing up. And then, now I sort of went through a few really hard years in probably 2020 to 2022. That was probably sort of my biggest highs and lows, with depression and work, and lost an absolute shitload of money. And that was sort of led me on the path of, all right, now I need to dive into professional development education, learn how I got through it, and then I can sort of turn around. Now I can help other builders get through what I got through, because I know there was, some days there where it was pretty tough. So that's sort of my purpose with Future Builder and sort of the education that I'm trying to do online, and
I like that.
a bit of fulfillment.
Yeah, we're definitely going to jump into more of that in this podcast. If we go back to the start of, again, Zanetto Builders, what sort of projects were you doing in the very beginning?
Yep, so the very first house I built was just a 3-bedroom brick skin veneer home. I think it was like $280,000. I think the owner supplied all the fixtures and fittings and the joinery and bits and pieces, and apart from that, I was just smacking bathrooms, decks, doing some stick framing and some cladding for some volume builders. So I was a bit of a mix of things. And then, that kind of led into some light commercial for my uncle, which was a bit interesting. And then we just sort of started to get back into the custom home space, and the custom homes went from leap to leap to leap. And then the first one that sort of kicked us off was my first home that I designed and built, the headquarters, which was pretty special to me in this day in the team. It was a nice black house, and that sort of put us on the map in Tassie. Won some awards, and that was where we probably kicked off, I reckon.
Talk me through this next part of this discussion. I'd be keen to extract from you some really key lessons, some false beliefs that you had to overcome when it comes to growing, and how you went about that, especially in light of builders who want to go from doing your decks and pergolas and bathrooms to doing your half mil, 2 mil,
Yep.
5 mil, 10 mil. Because these days you're doing a bit more than a 280 grand house.
yeah. Doesn't go far anymore though.
Yeah. How did you come about? Talk us through how you had you had the opportunity to do bigger stuff prior to doing your house?
We had, at that time, we were doing a project called The Twins, which was a big triple-story brick veneer townhouse development, which sort of won some awards too. And then we're also doing another one, which I lost like 250K on as well. So it was a really interesting sort of year. We kicked off and had 3 pretty standout sort of projects in Tassie. And that was sort of the gateway to building these bigger houses. But at that sort of time, and as the company started growing, as Zanetto Builders started growing, there was definitely some tough transitions from Kyle being the guy on site every day of the team, getting KFC for lunch, going out in the beers on the weekend to, okay, I've got 13 guys here now. I'm trying to do 50 hours a week on the tools and run a business. I'm going to have to step back. And then that was really difficult for me because I felt like I wasn't part of my own team. Got that sort of imposter syndrome because I felt like I wasn't out there doing the physical work itself. And then it's probably only 2.5, 3 years ago when I started to really step the business up again and brought in like a management tier and systems and all that. We had a few of the original staff members who didn't want to be part of a growing company that were looking to scale and have a reputable brand, and everyone's got to wear their uniforms, and we can't be running techno at full volume on the JBLs every day and doing all that stuff and the shirts off. So I found it pretty tough. There's probably 2 or 3 transitions that we went through, and I found that some people just didn't want to be in that sort of business, and I had people drop off, which hurt. And I probably had the misbelief back then that just growing the team and putting on anyone that wanted a job was the right way to go. But more people doesn't mean more profit and better culture. Like, who you hire into your business is crucial to the success of it. And now I've sort of got this saying, if we put someone into business, they've got to raise the overall bar as a minimum standard for the company as a whole. And that's sort of a minimum metric for anyone we look at.
I like that.
Yeah.
So new person comes on, the minimum standard is you need to lift the bar for the whole team.
Pretty well. So I believe, I look at running a business like building an Olympic basketball team or a football team. Like, you're out there to recruit people that are going to fit in a certain position with your company, and they're going to raise the standard of the company. If you look at someone and you bring them in, and after 3 months their probation finishes and you can't go, they don't lift the quality of the company, don't hire them. Whereas back in the day, I'd just be like, cool, we need an extra set of hands. I can make $20 an hour on this person. Let's keep them on.
You got 2 workable hands. Yeah. Okay.
And culture too, like.
Yeah, talk me through culture, because you don't get to where you are today without putting purpose behind the culture.
Yep.
And you mentioned there that you went through some of these growth stages where there was a significant shift that you had to design and implement when it comes to culture and systems and processes, and whether it be jamming on the JBLs, shirts off, to, hey guys, we're a bit more professional now. We're dealing with different caliber of clients. We're a bigger, better, more professional builder now. We want to be taken more seriously. It's the uniform. You wear it. How did you come to design, that might not be the right word, let's say design the culture?
Yep.
There was intention behind it. And how did you go about implementing it?
Yep.
And keeping it?
It's a good question. It's something I'm always still working on too, I think. Like, for me, as a business owner, I'm looking to sort of just set this vision or this goal of where we want to go. And then for me to be able to get buy-in from my team, I can't tell them their core values or what they believe in. I've got to kind of extract from the team what everyone sort of wants and what they find value in, whether that's, we don't want to build spec homes that are poor construction, we want to build healthy homes because we've got a moral or value alignment that we want the customers to live in a healthy space we've created. It's all about talking to your team and extracting from them what they believe in, so that when you put everything together, everyone's got a little piece of finger in that pie. Because if I'm just this leader that goes, cool, we want to build $100 million company, we're going to do everything's Kyle's way. Don't care about what you say, what your values are. We're just going to do what I say because I'm the boss. You're not going to get that sort of emotional buy-in and sense of self-worth and commitment to a team. Whereas me, we've transitioned from the techno loving kind of lads on site, which we still do love techno, I'm not going to lie. So that's still there.
Totally.
But yeah, I invest in my guys' professional development now. I show them I care. We'll do, I think, like the last 3 awards years, I've taken everyone to the awards. We've had all the orange bow ties on. It's been a 20 to 30 grand weekend sometimes, but I remember one of the apprentices come up to me towards the end of the night, probably had a few too many beers, but he was just like, mate, like looking around the room, like there's no other companies here that have brought their whole team and all their partners. And like it's a huge expense, but that to me, that was sort of one of those underlying things that if we're going to do something, we're going to do it together. We're not going to go to the local Bunnings breakfast if half the team are going to have bacon egg rolls, if the other guys are pouring concrete. It's not. We're all going to go to work. So it's a one in all in approach.
Yeah.
And if we're going to go in and one of the teams has got to stay late and work to get trusses up, I expect the other guys to be like, hey, do you want us to come down to your site? And that's sort of fundamental backing each other up no matter what. Is sort of what we built the team upon. And now we've definitely shifted from the 6 or 7 day a week team back to the let's balance life up a bit, and 40 to 45 hours a week pulls it up.
Yeah.
Because there's more to life than work.
Do you think you'll ever do a 4-day week?
I have actually set 4-day weeks for my East Coast companies. So the value add for them is if you're going to move away and take your family with you, you're going to do a 4-day week. So you get a 3-day weekend. So I've looked at it. I know quite a few companies are.
Yeah.
So whether we transition that way in the future, I know I'll still do.
Yeah.
Minimum 5 because I love it.
We had one of our Melbourne builders on the podcast a while back, and he read, I think the guy who founded Patagonia.
Yep.
And he talks about he's all about his people, and he put in place this 4-day work week, and it was everyone shunned at it, and it worked so well. It was so healthy for the business, and the business went on to do great things. So he took that, implemented it, and you can imagine you would probably experience similar in the building industry. It's like, how's that? How are you going to get ahead doing a day less? Like, your clients expect you to be working on site. They're going to call you Fridays or whenever the day is and be like, where are you? But they implemented it. Maybe by now it'd be like a year ago, and he said it was just been phenomenal.
Well, mathematically it makes sense. You are more productive because if you're doing a 40-hour week and a 5-hour day, you've got 10 lots of packing in and out tools. You've also got 5 lots of say smoko and 5 lots of lunch. But if you go to a 4-day week and you're still doing 40 hours, you've got 8 and 4 and 4. So you've actually got more productivity.
There you go. Simple maths makes sense.
That's the other way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's all the little things, and like in my business, I look for the small efficiencies. So something that most people don't do in Tas, it's cold, right? And in winter, guys are going to want to heat their food up. You've got a 15 or a 10-minute paid smoko. You've got 4 guys on site that want to heat their meals up for 3 minutes each.
15 minutes ain't going to
Then you want to eat it. You're losing 10 minutes per person across the whole business, per smoko per day. I figured out about $60,000 a year. So I put 2 microwaves in all my containers, and I push smoke out to 30 minutes on every site every day.
Smoko is how long?
30 minutes.
30 minutes, okay.
Yeah. So you picked up $60,000 worth of productivity across all your jobs, plus your guys, if they're going to sit down for 30 or 25 minutes, you might get them up a bit earlier, but they're always going to stretch that 10 or 15 out at smoko. So I'm always looking for those little sort of value adds, and the 4-day week's definitely something we've been looking into. Yeah. But also I don't want to be offering the 4-day week and then the guys are doing a 3-day working weekend and they're buggered for the Monday the next week. So that's also something you've got to be mindful of.
Yeah. Do any of your guys if they're working for you, do they do any of their own stuff? Are they doing any cashes on the weekends?
Yeah, I'm not one to say no to cashes as long as it's sort of being safe and not wearing the Zanetto clothing just in case something happens. But yeah, I've got like a bloody awesome builder that works for me at the moment, Mog. He's building his first certified passive house for him and his partner to live in, and
beautiful. Wow.
He's doing a 4-day week because he's just slogging it away at the moment, working like an absolute animal. So I think that the guys like that if they're building their own house, you've definitely got to give them the opportunity because I've done the weekend house building stuff and it's pretty tiresome.
Yeah. But also I can imagine rewarding for him.
Yeah,
And so-
that's right. Like,
And if you said no, then it's going to cause a rift, and he's eventually probably going to,
yeah,
just cause, not a positive outcome.
it's hard. Yeah, like I've definitely been through that before, where guys have been like, "Hey, Kyle, can I put everything on your account and build a house under your license?" And that was something I did say no to, because if I do it for one, I've got to do it for 30. And that adds a lot of liability and risk to the company.
Totally.
And sometimes it is easy to say no and explain why, but maybe lend them some stuff throughout the build to help, or give them the 4-day week so they can do it. So it's got to be a bit of a win-win and lower the risk, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk me through branding and marketing.
Yep.
That's something I know that you have a really good understanding on,
Yep.
and have taken it seriously. And it's been a big, this could be my biased opinion, it's been a big contributor to
Massive. Yep.
to you going from boom, boom, boom. For those listening and not watching, my hand's going up, up, up. So talk me through what role that has played. When did it become something that you took seriously, and what role has it played?
Yep. So to be successful, people have to know who you are. To get repeat customers, you have to have a reputable brand. And when I looked at construction 8 years ago, there wasn't many builders in Tasmania, even in Australia, that would do all these fancy videos that you see online every day now. So I said, I need to get someone in media or audio visual who's excellent. I ended up with Matt Long from Tassie Visuals, who's been with me since day one. And I said, when we create a video, it's not just going to be your normal, hey, look what we've done on site today, here's the finished home, cool. Like, we're going to add a bit of flair to it. We're going to do like the tennis racket and the ball, or we're throwing a tile and smashing, or we've got the fancy music and all the lights and the cool drone shots and the cars and all that. So, yeah, we wanted to create something that was visually appealing from day one, and that was sort of the get-go, and then it sort of transitioned to education. So you're probably like me, people value education more than they value the visual side of things. The visual's great,
100%.
but people want to know that what they're buying is built properly. It's like when you go and buy a car, it's the same thing. So we sort of pivoted 4 or 5 years ago. So we combined the visual edits with the educational content. So it's, what are we building? Why are we building it this way? And why don't we build it this way? And this is what the sort of outcome's going to be. And that's sort of the road we've gone down with all of our educational content now. And that's where you'll pick up the other builders that follow you, and you spark the conversations with another builder doing something really cool, and you'll get something off him. And now we've sort of got this collaborative community online where everyone's trying to one-up each other. And the standard of construction in Tasmania is unreal, and even across Australia. But yeah, so we did the visuals, went through the educational content, and then it's just about putting yourself out there too. So doing like the podcasts or the talks, or being open and honest with your trials and tribulations through your business career, and even things like what we're doing with Future Builders and Zanetto Builders now. I'd get up and I'd film myself talking about my daily routine, or how I estimate labour, or what you got to mark a job up, or how to figure your overheads out. Little things like that all sort of put together builds this brand that's trusted. A trusted brand brings the right clients in.
100%. I know one thing that we try and educate our guys on is, if you can educate your clientele, and you're offering enough education that they have to keep coming back for more, then that builds trust, especially if the content can educate and sort of validate what you're educating them on. Then one, naturally they're getting to know you because they're spending more time with you. But then if you offer an education, then you slowly become the specialist. In their world, in their perspective, you're the specialist, you're the guru, I trust you.
Yep.
And then it's, Kyle, I'd love to do something with you. Where do we start?
Yeah. And you bang on. Like my approach to pre-construction is pretty unique.
Talk me through that, because a lot of guys, I think, miss huge opportunity not taking full responsibility or taking control and designing a pre-construction journey.
Yeah, so I was like most builders. Any sort of job that come through the door, you're like, cool, that's potential to make profit. Let's take this client on. Let's not look at qualification or anything like that. Let's just get the revenue in the door. And then it's probably 3 years ago, I designed something called the Forever Home process, which is my entire pre-construction process from my 30-point application questionnaire through to contract signing. And that's a flow that we follow for every single client. So we'll have metrics in our questionnaire, like how big's your house, what's your ideal budget, what's the number that scares you, if you're financing it, how are you financing it? For me, I've tracked every house I've ever built, how many hours it took to build that house, the slope of the site, what it was cladded in. So I can look at it and say, okay, in 2025, our average house is $6,500 a square metre. This person wants to build a 200 square metre house. We might need, say, $1.3 million, for example, and then I'm going to look for 35% of that value in cash. Okay. Because I know that if I go to the bank with a custom home, the bank value is potentially going to be 15% less than what the builder's contract is to make our net profit margin we need. So they're going to need to top up cash. Because what happened was I used to bring these clients in that would want to do $1 million house. They'd have 50 grand in cash. We'd price it up. The bank would value it at 800, and then after 6 months, the whole thing would fall over. So we have a qualification process. We do an initial paid consultation. And then if we're in design, we do an ECI agreement, which just means that I get paid for my hours to keep the design on track financially. I'm not a designer. I can't provide design advice without PI.
That's something I'm really trying to encourage more guys to take on, and I'm trying to give them resources to wrap their head around that concept.
Yep.
A lot of them have false beliefs with, if I start reaching out to, say, designers to just discuss this concept, they're going to throw it back in my face. They're going to laugh and go, no.
I've done it, they won't. So,
yeah.
What is it, 80% of builders that get drawn never get built? So I've rang hundreds of architects and designers. So
just say it again, because I want guys to hear that. How many do you reckon you've run?
I think it's 80%. I reckon 80% of builds that get designed never get built. And I've ran hundreds of designers and architects. So little Zanetto Builder inside tip here. So I have like a customer acquisition strategy methodology that I sort of follow. Yeah. So every Monday, my admin goes through every development application in the state of Tasmania. She will pick out every set of plans that looks like it's financially qualified. She will send me the architect's name and the architect's number. I will cold call and reach out if I don't know them and try and organise a coffee. Yep. I'm not asking for work. I'm just trying to turn up and provide value. And then it's easy once you get to there, because you go to an architect, you go, hey, what are your problems? We keep designing these houses that fall over because the client can't build them. You go, Zanetto Builders have this thing called the Forever Home process.
I am so happy to hear this coming from someone else's lips, because sometimes I'll talk to plenty of our builders, or not even. I'll share this with builders that aren't even on board with us, just to go, hey, try this. I had guys on the podcast last week that listened. Came back 4 or 5 months later and they got a pipeline that's full. And it's like, so it does work. But if you call 2 architects and they say no, and you stop there.
It's like going fishing, mate. Like
I
say to people, everyone goes, there's no work out there. I say, okay, what are you doing to get work? Nothing. We're just waiting. I say, well, cool. Every Monday, you're going to spend 8 hours. You're going to go through the awards list for the year before. You're going to make an Excel spreadsheet of every architect that's won an award. You're going to reach out to them. Then you're going to go through designers or whoever. And then you're going to go and, say, do 1,000 flyers, and you're going to fly drop in an area that there's lots of building work going on. And then you're going to reach out to the engineers, and you're going to reach out to whoever else in your network. And once you've exhausted all those 50,000 people that potentially want to build with you, then you can tell me that there's no work out there. It's just that people expect it to show up at the door. And it's not going to show up at the door unless you've got a strong brand, your SEO is on point, and you've got a good marketing strategy to attract the right leads.
I love that.
And then going back to the process, so we'll have a consultation. The consultation's just to make sure that we can get along with this person. They're not going to be the client that wants to provide the windows, the scaffold, and da-da-da-da. They're coming to us because we trust
I've got a brother who's an electrician. He'll come and...
He'll do it, yeah.
He'll do it, yeah.
So I've definitely learned my expensive lessons there, letting clients supply things. After that, we do a qualifying budget estimate. So we push the preliminary or final set of plans through to our estimating team. They'll provide us a build spend range, which might be, say, $2 to $2.3 million. We'll take this to the client. We'll say, cool, this is where we think it's going to land before we go and put 50 hours into developing the proposal. yep, cool, we're happy to proceed. They sign an agreement, means that working exclusively with Zanetto Builders, can't work with anyone else. So we've got qualified client, qualified budget, we're working exclusive, and from then on I go open book. Okay. So I go, here's my overhead, here's the net profit, here's my contingency, here's 4,000 items, this is what your house looks like. And I actually run them through my labour estimating sheet, which will have 2,000 or 3,000 tasks in it on how to build and manage a house from start to finish. So I can say, cool, there's 650 hours in your slab, there's 250 hours in your frame worth X amount of dollars, and then I'll actually run through the entire proposal, say 90 line items, and show them every bit of LVL, dollar for dollar.
Every one of your proposals at that level,
yep,
you are sitting down with the client.
Do them all live. Yep. I never send a client a proposal.
Yep.
I always just do a live presentation, either on a Zoom screen share or in my office.
What happens if the architect's blocking you from interacting with the client directly?
I won't do it. Yep. If an architect wants a three-way tender, I'll say, oh, well, I'm not interested. Yep. This is what we do and this is why it's successful.
And this is what we do, this is why we do it.
Yep.
On average, what does the feedback look like on that? When you describe that to an architect who says, I'm going to take it to tender?
Depends. If it's sort of like a bigger architecture firm that have been around a while and aren't quality driven, they're cost driven, they're going to go to tender because they're going to not always look for the cheapest quote, but they're not going to take the best builder based on their process. Okay. So we're process driven. We want to exclusively, we don't want to make more than what we need. Yeah. Like I sit there in a presentation, the first thing I say is, cool, it's $2.5 million. How does that make you feel? Get a bit of feedback. And I say, okay, now I'm going to show you why. And here's everything we've done that's super accurate. So it's not us trying to rip you off. We're here to make $250K net minimum on this job. But the rest is what it is. And here's $200,000 worth of strategies that we can reduce it, that I've pre-prepared for you if that number scares you. But we're not too dear. This is just what the house you've designed costs. And that's where what we do, and trying to be that ABC, like architect, builder, client from day one, to design a house that meets all the metrics. When you get to the end, not design the house and then look for the builder, and then when the builder's too expensive, you look for the cheap, shitty builder.
I love. We've hand selected a few architects, and we're keen to get more on to the podcast. Whether they've expressed a view that is, if I talk to this is in their words, if I talk to a client and we say, "Do you have a builder in mind?" and they say, "Oh no, we don't know who our builder is. Haven't chosen one." Great, let's go find your builder. Before I start putting pen to paper, let's go find a builder. Let's go build our team.
Let's go and interview a few and look at their process and see what their success rate is once they onboard a client and convert. And that's where you get your trust.
Yeah, process is so important.
Yeah.
What about the builder who, because it happens a lot, I express this, the idea sounds great, and then they get stopped. They get, again, this sort of false belief, like, oh, I don't have a process. And they think that they needs to be this incredibly documented, and they first need to go and build this extensively documented process before they even do it with their first client.
Just email me, I'll send you mine.
That's epic.
That works. But you got to imagine, so every part of my process, I pretend I'm the customer. Okay. I say, right, if I'm coming into your office and you're a builder and you give me two pieces of paper that tells me my house is going to be $2 million but doesn't show me why, and you've got no process around how you've got to the number or how you can deliver it or what the handover process and the defects period is going to look like, how's that building trust? So my thought is, if you're going to take $2.5 million off someone, you have to give them $2.5 million worth of trust. Yeah. It's a lot of trust when you start to build houses like that. Yeah. And typically for us, we're building the forever home. We're building the last house that people have saved their entire life for. So they're not just going to dive in easily. You're going to have to earn it.
Yeah, totally. Jumping topics a little bit, but not really, because it touches in everything. I think it was maybe a year ago, I texted you and I said, what would be your favourite book? What would be the top book you would recommend? You came back very quickly and you said Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Why that book? And what does that book mean to you?
I think that a problem that I used to have and a lot of builders have is that the client was bad or this didn't go right because of this. But if you really just step back, everything that happens to you or around you is a result of how you've behaved. So whether it's you think you got the bad client. No, you don't have the bad client. You've got the bad qualification process because you didn't learn from the last bad client you have. So if you're not learning through every step within your business and your mistakes, and you're not taking ownership and you're pushing the blame out to the people around you, you're never going to step up. You're just going to stay where you are. So, yeah, I think extreme ownership, just even in the title, it just says like anything that happens around you, just own it and try and take responsibility. Even if it wasn't you, you're still going to learn and grow from it. And probably wasn't until I was 26 or 27 to even start thinking like that, because I was the young, testosterone-fueled bloke that just wanted to just work. And if you didn't want to keep up, get out of the way, like we'll just get it done.
Okay. When you came across that school of thinking or that thought, that mindset and perspective on the world, your life, what did that mean to you?
I think I got there through failure. Like I'm the sort of guy that success and winning things or whatever doesn't give me any benefit. It's when I fail in a relationship or fail financially or in a job and it really hurts is when you go, okay, Kyle, like stop. Let's just slow down and have a look at why that sort of happened. And for me, yeah, I don't know what it meant to me. Like that's sort of where I see my turning points in life. It's the deepest sort of downs and the lulls is where you get your greatest growth from. So I don't sort of shy away from big failure. I think it's good to fail big. But yeah.
Would you agree with my observation? I assume you'll agree. It's a choice. So what you said there in terms of like when you get to that real low, you can choose to then use that to slingshot you with hard work to the heights that you're aiming for.
Yeah, everything's a choice. You can bury your head in the sand and say it wasn't your fault, and then in 6 months you're going to go through the same thing, or you go, cool, I got here because of the way I acted like this. And next time I get here, I'm going to remember what it felt like to lose this person or lose this $200,000, and this is what I'm going to do now to make sure I go here. And you keep stacking those losses that turn into wins, and after years and years, I suppose that's where you slowly just learn and get better.
How do you then take that perspective, this extreme ownership? For those of you who out there who haven't read the book or listened to the audio, it's a great book. Ex-Navy SEAL guy talks through in the book these moments of where ownership is incredibly important, and he talks through a scenario in a certain battle, a certain mission, and then talks about the concept standalone, and then looks at an application where he's consulted a business and implemented that into a business. So it's a great walkthrough in that light. But that's being a big person on the intentional culture behind your business. How do you go about transitioning that mindset so that it's not just yours, but that flows down through each tier or layer within the business?
I think it just starts with collective responsibility. Like if you've got anyone in your team that's happy to point the finger at someone that's on the same side as them, they're not the right cultural fit, and you need to maybe have a word to them. So usually that I find that if we lose money on a job, it's not because of the project manager, it's because Kyle or the estimator priced the job wrong. Whereas 5-6 years ago, I'm like, oh, we're losing money, you're too slow.
Okay.
And then if you've got the project manager and he's got a carpenter under him that makes a mistake and he blames the carpenter as, no, you didn't teach him, or you didn't lead him, or you didn't show him properly. And then that flows from the carpenter to the apprentice. And that just sort of works up and down the tree within your business. And if everyone adopts that mindset that, oh, cool, like he stuffed up because, I didn't sit down this morning, I didn't draw it out on the whiteboard and teach him, then you've got that collective responsibility. And the apprentice that cuts the bloody lintel 100 mil short isn't going to be scared. He's like, oh, I'm really sorry, mate. And that's what I want. Like, we've had guys make $20,000 mistakes in the company. Back in the day, I would have tore what air I had out. And now it's just like, oh, mate, like, that's because we didn't have a system in place to make sure that when this went down, it was the right colour, or that this was ordered properly. And that's my fault. And that's the biggest part of it, I think, is you can't get angry. Every mistake's a good one. You've just got to make sure you learn, because if you don't learn, then
I'd rather learn a $20,000 mistake than a $100,000 mistake. So let's put the process in now.
Yeah,
and
that's
it only
right.
costs us that.
Yeah,
that's so true. And so talk us through, because that's a big thing in terms of you. Like, you're a young guy. You're not 50. You haven't.
How old am I?
What you've achieved. How old do I think you are?
Yeah.
28, 29.
Oh, jeez. 32.
32.
23.
23.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive in terms of what you've been able to accomplish. But one thing I do find inspiring about you, and I'm keen to jump more into that in just a sec, is this journey that you're going on is not just about you. You're big on training your own team, and that's growing and giving this autonomy and training to upskill the next generation within Zanetto Builders, but you're also keen to look at training the next generation of Australian builders. Let's maybe jump now into Future Builders. So can you take us to that, please?
Welcome to Future Builder.
Epic. Let's jump into that. So this is something you've been working on now for quite a while, piecing it together. And obviously it's been put together with you, your co-founders, and all of the history that has come from, like what's built is built on the shoulders of those that have come before us.
Yep.
Talk us through how this came about and why you built it with your partners.
So the idea for Future Builder started as separate ideas from myself and co-founder Luke Davies from Davies Construction in Tasmania. So for me, I went through that really difficult few years, and then after that sort of period, that's when I dove down into the business coaching realms. And I sort of consulted with 4 or 5 different building business coaches, mindset coaches, all that, and invested a lot of time and a lot of money into a space there to sort of get me out of that hole and get me into a bit more of a healthy mindset and healthy, profitable business. And that's when I looked at all these platforms and loved everyone that I've been in, but I said, there's got to be something more here. So it was about 2 years ago now, I sort of approached my media guy and said, look, I've got this idea, I want to build this platform. This is sort of how I want to go about it. And he goes, you wouldn't believe it, but like your top competitor in Northern Tassie, he's just come to me with the same sort of idea.
Wow.
And so we were sort of 2 building companies doing a lot of very similar stuff. We're about an hour apart, so we weren't really playing around in each other's space too much. And we said, well,
an hour apart's a big distance in Tassie. Yeah.
That's most of Tassie. That's one side the other. That's a long way.
Yeah.
No one wants to drive that far. And we said, well, you can either try and do something yourself, work a lot harder, you're not going to have the credibility, or we can say, all right, let's put 2 credible businesses together and merge all the assets and everything, and let's build this idea together. And then, so Luke and I, similar sort of guys, but completely different skill sets. He's like this back-end systems absolute genius, whereas I love more like numbers and sales and talking to people and building the business and that side of stuff. We said, all right, well, we've got 2 building companies, and then we've got this media guy. That's sort of all we need. So we sat down and we mapped out what Future Builder could look like, and we did a handful of different whiteboard sessions and bits and pieces, and then we sort of come up with this idea as like being like the librarians for the construction industry. So it was a really simple model. It was like, okay, what's the problem that most builders have? It's a lack of assets. That a tool that they can plug into their business which provide a solution which makes them either operate more efficiently or make more money. So we said, okay, let's become librarians for the construction industry. So we said, let's build an asset library. So what we did, we said, all right, everything that Zanetto Builders ever built, everything that Davies have ever built, we're going to merge them. We're going to build this asset library. And our point of difference is going to be, we're not going to protect any of our IP. All the other coaching platforms I've been on.
That is just so radically different to what's out there.
I won't say the problem, but the difficult thing that I found with all the coaching platforms is that I'm a busy guy. I don't want to watch a 40-minute video, and then I don't want to have to download a PDF that's got another coaching company's brand on it that I can't just delete and put mine on. If I'm going to do something, I want a video to last 3 to 5 minutes. I want it to have what the problem was, what my experience was with it, what the solution is, and here's a downloadable asset you can plug straight into your company that's going to solve that problem. And that was sort of the approach to every single course that we've built in Future Builder. So you can come into Future Builder and download 20 years worth of business asset on day one. So you can add over $500,000 or whatever you want to say the value of that stuff is to your business.
A lot more.
Yeah. That's right. Could be, you can't put a number on it, but every estimating template, the labour estimating spreadsheet, every employment handbook, policy, procedure, sales flows, everything, all the marketing strategies, the lot that we've ever sort of built, you can have on day one, and then you can employ a VA to put the brand on it all. Like I was saying before, my Forever Home process is a document that I hand typed, and I think it's 25 pages. And it's got all these beautiful pictures we did in Canva. It took 4 months to build. Members can log on, open up Canva, drag their brand colours on it, change the photos, done. You've got Zanetto Builders process. So that in itself, along with the questionnaire.
I just love how, like, in terms of knowing your audience, when you clearly know your audience.
Yeah.
Like, you're not trying to be a university. You're not trying to, it's just, this is what you need. Here it is. Take it.
Yeah.
Take it and use it.
This is what works.
Yeah.
And what else I say, let's say it's $2,000 a month to join up. You're not spending $2,000 a month. You're buying your future problems that cost me, say, $200,000 by not knowing how to price the labour into a job.
I mean,
It's
maybe you haven't had this, but like, do you find that because you've almost made it so easy, obviously implementation and then follow through and following up with everything you're doing is important. These guys are not having the problems that they could have had. And so they're almost, it's like, oh, thanks, Kyle. Things are going really well. Like, how do you then measure the impact is definitely going to be like amazing, but I feel like there's going to be a huge, like, almost like an iceberg. Like, what's on top? This has been a great call, but it's like, yeah, you don't know what you just avoided.
Yeah, but I think, so with Future Builder, you can't just sign up.
Okay.
You can't just pay and join.
Okay.
I have to interview you, and you have to sort of qualify and align with what we align with. So we're looking for builders that want to build healthy homes and passive house and work exclusively with customers, and that's what our whole sort of model is designed around. It's not it's not sort of built for the spec home or the volume builder. Yes, there's things in there that could work, but we are trying to build this niche that one day becomes this brand that if you want to build your final home, you're going to look for a Future Builder.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do. And we're bringing lots of other platforms in. Like, we've partnered up with Wonderbuild. We're doing a heap of development there. You can sign in to Wonderbuild. You can get all of our templates for the estimating, all the cost codes. You can get all the site diaries, all of the checklists from how to load the job up all the way through to handing it over. Like, it is just so process driven, but it's easy to use. It's not something that you got to follow a flow chart or you can't use, or it's on. It's just all super easy. And then we're trying to provide a bit of a done-for-you approach. So with all the experts we're bringing in from every field, whether it's automation, bookkeeping, estimating, it's not, hey, Kyle, you need to go and learn how to be an estimator. It's like, here's a company that can do it for X. If you charge your client X, you can get it done for you. And now I can turn a $2 or $3 million house over in 6 hours for my own time. And it's paid for. And years ago, I'd put 100 to 150 hours in a house like that, and I'd probably just get turned away at the door because as soon as I dropped the paper on the desk, we were overpriced, and I didn't get paid.
One thing I really like what you're saying there in terms of what you're offering, and again, this is just my observation, a huge mountain that a lot of guys struggle to climb when they go to coaching is, coach says, here are your problems. You need to go and do this. Now this guy who's already having challenges, he's clicked on the ad because his time's short and that appealed to him. I got no time and I can't scale, and it's, I'm doing quoting at midnight and all that. He's stuck in that position. Now he has to go and find an additional X amount of hours to start putting in this change. That can happen, but it can take a long time. And some guys get stuck there. It takes longer than it should. I've seen a big shift, big difference with, say, those guys who are in partnerships. So there's two guys. Or husband and wife team. They can happen a bit more efficiently there. Whereas you've come in and gone, no, I'm not going to just say you need to go and create a process. And then you have to go and find an additional 10 hours in your week to go and design a process. Here it is.
Yeah, here it is. It works. We've tested it.
Yeah.
And the first thing I say to people, they're like, oh, $2,000 a month or whatever it is. I'm like, nah, sit down. I'm going to show you how to make $2,000 a month and make your membership free within the first 2 minutes. And then, cool. Now Future Builder is free. Now I'm going to show you how to make money and how to run a profitable business.
I like that.
So it's like, okay, cool. If you've got 6 blokes, what do they do? 40 hours a week over a month, multiply it out, add $2.50 to their charge out rate. Doesn't cost you a thing.
Yep.
or next job you price. It's like me, I'll put $70,000 to $80,000 in my year in my overhead for a professional development. So things like this, it's paid for because you need to budget in your education. And that's the problem. People go, oh, it's a $2,000 cost. I know it's costing you maybe $200,000 a year not to know.
Not to know.
And that's the hard thing. And I was the same until I started going down that road. And then when you do, and then your first job that you know that even when things still go bad, you've still got a contingency and you're still going to walk away with your net margin, you're not stressed. And when you can turn up to work not stressed, you become a better leader, you're going to be a better boss, you're going to be a better friend, you're going to be a better partner at home, because I've been through the financial stress and it tops everything.
Yeah.
And it's hard to show up when you're getting buried.
Yeah, that's true. And sometimes that can then, like if you're struggling on one job, you can take that weight into that next, prospective client meeting, and you're not walking in there with confidence, you're not walking in there as a winner, and they can smell that. And that can lead to, bad feedback loop. But going back to before you started this, actually, you went down and you spent time with a number of coaches and mentors in the industry. How important is it to have a coach, have a mentor?
Oh, it's a fundamental. If I knew what I knew now, I would have done a year's worth of business coaching before I even started my company, because it would have saved me 4 to 5 years worth of heartache and hustle. Because back then I would have looked at, okay, I'm going to work 7 days a week. Whereas if I looked at it now, it's like, cool, I'm just going to run my overhead and run my markup in there and price everything else, and I can work 4 days a week and make more money. Like it's all the numbers game. Yes, you've got to build the brand and you've got to be able to attract the clients and qualify them so you can get those sort of margins in your job. But I never go into a job to make more than what's fair. Like we want to make a minimum 10% net. And I tell my clients that. Like we're not here to rip anyone off. Because a sustainable business isn't that. It's based on referrals and happy customers and happy clients. So you've got to be fair. You've got to be transparent. They've got to trust you.
Hearing that you're like how you operate and just the level of ownership you take and putting systems and process in to arrive at the outcome that you want. Jumping back onto the marketing and that side of things. There's a whole mixture of builders out there. Every now and again, we'll work with a builder who's like, cool, plug you in. Now I'm going to sit and wait. Here we go. Where's this shovel-ready project where there's no limit on money and, they've got champagne budget, champagne expectations landing in my lap. And it's like, and sometimes, a couple months in, it's like, I'm just not seeing that land in my lap. What's going on?
Yeah, spoon feed me.
It's like, man, what planet do you live on? Like, talk me through how you see marketing plugged into your business. What role does it play?
Well, it's huge. So we obviously track the metrics for where all of our leads come from. So whether it's Google, Instagram, Facebook, signage, referral. So we sort of know where we need to spend. But I'm just a big believer in the more you give, the more you get. So we did, for example, an open house on a passive house in Hobart last Saturday. We did 3 tours. We had about 80 people through. Of those 80 people, there was 3 potential clients. Those 3 potential clients could be worth $5 or $6 million to the business. And that's in one day. And that's just because I'm going there with the team. We're setting things up. We've got our suppliers. I've got models. And I'm educating clients on why we're building this way and what this is for Zanetto Builders. And for me, I've got a growing business. If we're building 10 houses a year for the next 50 years, we're going to have 500 houses that are going to have a 7-year liability. And if I can reduce the risk on those 500 houses...
70 year?
7 years per house.
Yeah.
So it's all about risk minimisation and building a well-constructed house, having a good process to deliver it and then do the maintenance period. If you can do that, you lower the risk for your company and you're going to secure the future of your company as well. So it's all about educating the client that when they invest with you, you're going to be there, 1, to fix their house if anything does go wrong. 2, you're not going to go broke, so they're going to be left with their head in their hands, upset that they chose a builder that was 50 grand cheaper, but now that's going to cost them 100 because the house has failed. So that sort of the strategy around marketing is just I just want to give back to people and help educate. And like I said, the more you give, the more you get.
Yeah, love that. Share with me some epic stories, because I've haven't a chance to chat to a lot of your students or builders in Future Builder. One in particular though, and he's just loving it, James, and
he's actually our A grade student. He's on the top of the leaderboard. So
epic!
Shout out, James, Spock.
We can chat more about him, but share with me some stories, some wins of guys, because it is such a tight community.
Yep.
You know, there's be a large group out there that,
Yep.
especially with Future Builder being new, the whole industry doesn't yet know about you guys.
Yep.
Share with us some stories you've had from inside the tight knit community.
The biggest thing is, so we have our portal, which is business, and we have our Instagram chat, banter. Yeah. So Friday afternoon, everyone gets in there, which is today, and you'll have 40 to 50 businesses log their wins for the week.
Love it.
And sitting there and just reading through the success stories about the guys that have had their first ECI signed, or they've gone through the whole pre-construction process. And we had one guy there, after I dropped the labour estimating sheet, he's like, made me 40 grand on our first job.
Wow.
Just with the labour estimating. Because I always found that with a job, the way most people price is they go, 2 builders, 2 weeks to do the slab, take them 2 weeks to do the frame, week to put the trusses up, knock all that out, you got 2,000 hours. Whereas I've got 30 pages and I've got every task on getting a string line out, putting the peg in the ground, putting the paint on the ground, boxing and bracing it up, so the guys that can actually work through it and see why. And then we've got like 100, 200 hours just to get your tools in and out. So for guys to be able to use a tool like that we've built, that we know that works, that's going to make them money and make them a better person, better boss, better partner, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. That's just super fulfilling. And then the community too, like being a business owner is pretty solemnly sometimes, like especially in a small town, if all your mates are still session or whatever, you're stressing out and you've got all these other sort of headaches and financial stress. I find that if you've got 50 other builders that have gone through the same stuff, I've got friends in there now that are like my best mates, and we'll catch up around Tassie. Like we went to Dubai in Germany at the start of the year. We had an awesome catch up in Melbourne, which had 40 to 50 people through, and a couple massive dinners and a few nights on the beers. And like there was nothing like business coaching related or any workshops or nothing. It was just cool. We work hard. Let's catch up and build this.
And that's some of the
friendship.
best times.
Yeah.
Memories. Like, I know when we've done similar stuff in the past, but just putting good people together.
Yeah.
And it might be for a day, it might be, for 2 night long weekends. Like you still talk about that.
Yep.
It's so special.
Yeah.
And so important, especially for those that are a little bit isolated at the top.
And what we are doing, was looking at rolling it out soon, is every single builder that comes into Future Builder is going to get a financial audit, and then it's going to be a recurring audit. So we can make sure that anyone that's in our platform is moving forwards, because I know people that have been in business coaching for 2 or 3 years that go broke. Okay. I'm like, you've just paid $60,000 or whatever it is to someone and you've ended up here. You should be asking for your bloody money back. Like, if you're not actually tracking and measuring the success of your members, you can't really stand behind your product. And if we can go, in 2 years' time, we've increased everyone's profit margin from here to here and we've made these businesses X, that's going to be our marketing strategy. It's like, if you join Future Builder, we'll take you from here to here and here's our success rate. We're not just selling you something that you picked up off a paid Instagram ad because we made the visuals look cool. And here's 60 other building businesses that you can talk to that we know are going to back our product. That's what it's all about.
What's the difference between, we don't have to talk necessarily those just inside Future Builder, because you've talked to a lot of builders in the industry.
A lot.
What is some key fundamental differences between your guys that start taking these steps up, and your A graders, your 1%ers, versus your guys who...
Such an easy answer.
Yeah.
Get off the tools.
Okay.
You've just got to get off the tools. Yep. The more time you spend in the office working on your business and then bringing the right people in, as a business owner, that's where you're going to make the growth.
Okay.
Because if I look at when I was on the tools and I was drained and then I was just trying to get my 2 or 3 hours a night in, I didn't have the mental capacity to work on the business. I was just doing payroll and estimating very poorly, all that other shit. So I would say to guys, if you're on the tools full time, let's go Monday afternoons from 12 till 4. You always jump on your Future Builder call, get it going. Then we're going to take Wednesdays. We're going to pick 2 half days. Pick it in the latter half of the day. So if you're on the tools, you can still get your team set up, and by lunch, they're going to know what's sort of going on. Obviously, make sure that you've got a team that you can leave on site. Don't have apprentices and leave them. And then it's just a transition of just stacking time. And then, just working off the tools and making sure that you've got your numbers absolutely dialed. I've built a financial dashboard, and that pulls all the metrics from my CRM and all from my accounting software, and it gives me a report every month. And it's got every metric, all the levers in my business as percentages, averages for 6 months, and then the current month, my working hours, professional development hours, my hourly rate as a business owner, my lead generation, my pipeline on the ground, my conversion rate, my pipeline value, my expected net profit. It's just all the numbers. And then once you can sit there as a business owner and you can look at your business and not have anxiety around where it sits, which is where I used to. I'd walk into the monthly bookkeeping or accounting meeting and, hey, Kyle, you've lost 100 grand. I thought I had a good year or a good month. And then you just bang, your mood's down. You're like, I'm doing 80 hours a week and I'm losing 100 grand. What's happening?
Where's the hole?
Kills your spirits. So to be able to get all of the data and get clarity around how things are, and then when things aren't going right, you know exactly what you need to do or what lever you need to pull. That's the biggest thing. And then it's all about just stacking the right team members that you know have got the same sort of moral alignment and compass and are here for the company and to support you. And I think that comes down to you having to have a bit of a personal relationship with them as well, like outside of business. You can't just, it's not a transactional thing. You've got to, oh mate, how was your birthday? How's your partner? How's your kids or whatever? Or hey, do you want to go and do this? Or I'll shout you something to this. Let's go and hang out. So can't do that with everyone in a growing business, which sucks. Something I still sort of struggle with. But you do need to connect on a human level as well, and that's what's going to get that buy-in.
Talking about connection there, you mentioned that some of these non-dedicated, like business-focused getaways with some of your builders in the group have been awesome. You recently travelled with some of them. You mentioned Dubai.
Yeah, we did Melbourne for a 2-day trip. We did Dubai and Munich in Germany in January.
What did you guys do there, and why'd you go?
So Dubai got tacked on. So it just happened that Mind Valley, not sure if anyone's heard of that, it's an online educational platform that I'm part of. They had a conference there, so that's where a lot of like entrepreneurial online business owners come in and they talk about the future of business. So it was a very AI-based sort of conversation, which is something in the Future Builder that we're really pushing because we know the power of AI. And then, we went through to Munich in Germany and met up with a guy called Airboss Dan, who is Pro Climbers sort of lead installer across Australia and a pretty well-known face and a good friend of mine. So, we did the Bow Build Expo and spent 7 days just doing some tours and drinking a lot of beers and doing a bit of dancing and creating memories.
Munich's a special place.
Love Munich, And then we've got a big Tassie trip actually end of April. So everyone's going to come down to Tassie and come down to State Mine and get the boards out and go for a bit of bushwalk and all that.
Oh, man, that'll be awesome. I feel like starting a building company just to come join.
You can come, mate. Plenty of space.
Talk me through the future, because that's something I mentioned to you at the coffee we had before jumping on the podcast. Observing you for a while now, you're big on the future, and you're not just talking it, you're putting things in place. And one thing I find really cool with what you're doing, especially in light of what you can hear from a lot of other people in the industry, being like, oh, this next generation is quick fix, short-term orientated, instant gratification, whereas you're putting a lot of hard yards in for the future of yourself, your family, future of your business, future of Tassie, future of the industry, Australia, like that's, and some of the work you're putting in for the future, you might not necessarily see that direct reward at all, or in your lifetime. Or talk me through what are some of the big things that you're excited for and that you're wanting to work towards.
So I'll start with Zanetto Builders. So I think I mentioned earlier, something that really sort of stuck with me was when key sort of individuals and good friends of mine left the company. So my sort of plan for Zanetto Builders is to divide the business up into areas and then bring key individuals into each area and give them ownership. One, that's going to give me the ability to unwind and not feel guilty when I go away. I used to go away for 2 weeks or a week and I'd be so guilty, and I think the only way to not keep people of that calibre is to give them some type of ownership.
Yeah.
So Zanetto Builders is going to be splitting up, and I won't be stepping back as much, but I will be, because I do want to focus on Future Builders a bit as well. So that's going to give those guys the ability to build their dreams as well. With the Future Builder, sky's the limit with it, really. Like we don't want to become this massive, big building business revenue churning model. Like, I'm all about knowing every single member, knowing their name, where they live, what they do. So we are going to cap our sort of model for what we're doing the way it is at the moment, but then we are going to open up different tiers, and I am looking at a 5-year sort of customer retention plan as well, to make sure that people that come in are constantly stepping up and they're constantly being rewarded. And then, we do want to design something that is more affordable, which is underway as well at the moment. And that's going to be designed for the people that have just finished their apprenticeship or their Cert 4 or whatever. And I'm like, if I can get every single builder that ever goes to start a business to do this course and save all these issues and problems that I went through, and that just becomes like that fundamental thing, like, hey guys, here's a course, it might take you 4 days, but it's going to give you all the tools to make sure that when you start right. Like, that's massive. And for me, that's rewarding in itself. Like, Wow. And then you get the phone calls. Like, I've had guys in Sydney or Melbourne ring up, hey mate, listen to your podcast about when you went through all this. I'm going through the same thing. What can I do? And I'll spend an hour on the phone with some stranger. It's like, hey mate, like, oh yeah, you're building a custom home. You're only running 6 stage payments. It goes for 12 months. No wonder you got cash flow issues.
Oh man.
Let's go 12 stage payments over 12 months. Like, but a lot of people still don't know that because it's not out there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people.
It's.
I heard an interesting piece of information today where, you know, what we're doing is often maybe from the book Factfulness, bright orange book. Have you come across that?
Nah, not one.
It's a great book to challenge your preconceived ideas on the world when it comes to when you make the comment, half the world lives on $1 a day. Really? Where have you actually read that? And what are the actual statistics on that? Beliefs. You know? And one of the things it raises in the intro is when you have a mindset of the world and you make a statement as it's a truth and belief, there's a large percentage of that that comes from who taught you. And look at, where did they learn it? They learn it from who taught them. And so sometimes information you're going off can be 30 years old. And it was like, holy moly. Frightening.
It's interesting. Yeah, I actually heard that on one of Mosey's podcasts the other day as well.
Okay.
So it's interesting, isn't it? And that's where most people fail. It's they don't have the knowledge. But I think that's where this sort of big crash in the building industry is right now. Is social media has sort of been the saviour for what we're doing now, because the information is all over Instagram and it's attainable on the internet, whereas 15, 20 years ago...
It was so siloed with each individual.
Yeah, and building business owners, like, cards close to chest, like, this is how I do things. I'm not going to teach you, mate. Like, this is it. Whereas now...
What do you think has shifted that? Why do you think this generation, like your generation, our generation, is more open to that?
One is availability.
Okay.
Like, you imagine I can jump on Instagram right now and I'll flick through my feed. It'll be all builders. So I'm like, oh, cool. Like, that's at front of mind.
Yeah.
Whereas for my father or someone in that generation, you've got to go to the pub or pick up the landline. Okay. And it's just not there. Whereas now people are using education as a tool to attract as well.
Yeah.
So it works for both parties. Like, someone's obviously trying to gain something out of it, where it's a financial gain or where it's self-fulfillment through what they've learned. But then there's someone else who's like, I really need this information, and here it is. So there's someone that can help me on my journey. Yeah. And then it sort of just flows through.
What are your thoughts on the idea? It's something I've just been playing with, a thesis in my brain, that like the generation that taught you, they only really knew their local area because that's all they serviced.
Yep.
And they only had privy to the information. Probably feeds like what we were saying there. Like, I only have access to information that I can physically observe or hear by earshot or read in the local area. So so then that naturally can feed to a concept of scarcity where, like, I only see that work that's available is the work that I'm seeing. Therefore, it's limited.
Yeah.
But one street over, could be something going on and I just don't know that person. Whereas globalization has allowed us to go, oh, there's an abundance here.
Yeah.
Why am I scared to collaborate? Was there a shift in your mind that came from scarcity to abundance? Whether it be in work, and also your like money mindset? Because I know that can hold a lot of guys back sometimes. Like asking for money, oh, that's too expensive. To you or to the client? To what they value versus, talk me a bit through that part of your journey.
Yeah, so that preconceived conception around charging too much, that was my biggest sort of hurdle early on. I was a young builder coming up and worked with a lot of smart business owners, and I know I'd sit there and I'd price a job overnight, and then I'd sit there and look at it and go, oh, I reckon I can pull a couple % off the margin on this one. I can knock a few hours out to get a bit cheaper. Whereas realistically, I probably should have been leaving it because your first thought's always your best thought, or pushing it up. And you sort of negotiate yourself down because you don't believe in yourself.
Yep.
Whereas now we'll price a job like, this is it. Like, our process is so dialed, we're not going to cut it. Building wise, the bosses I sort of grew up and worked for were awesome, hardworking bosses, but there was no back end systems really. It was pretty old school. And everyone did sort of fight for their space. Whereas now, we don't compete against other builders, we don't tender. So if you're better than me, you'll beat me in pre-construction or brand. Okay. Good on you. Then I'm going to see what you're doing, I'm going to do it better. But then you've got guys like Hamish from Sanctum and Matty Carlin and guys over on the mainland that I sort of followed early in my journey of learning how to build better homes, and they're on there educating. It's like, cool, well, these guys are here teaching the next generation, which is me, and then now I can do the same for the people coming up behind me. And we've sort of got this community online that are all working together towards a common goal. It's not like, oh, here, this is how we do this. We're going to hold it to ourselves because only our clients are going to get it. And that's that sort of scarcity mindset. And then when it comes to money too, like, scarcity mindset of money's good when you're broke, but when you learn how to make money, it's like, okay, cool. Like, everyone in my team gets an annual training allowance. This is for you and your professional development, or we're going to do the awards night, or this year we're not doing the awards, so I want to take my whole team to Melbourne or Bali as the give. So it's like, money, it comes and goes. You lose it, you make it. The more you try and hold on to it, the more miserable you become, I think. I think, like, go and shout the team lunch here and go and do this, and yeah, it's
definitely something I've just observed with the guys in the industry that succeed and keep growing and more profitable, make more money. Definitely have a mindset around giving, and also a money mindset of there's plenty out there. I know one guy. It was like in the early days of COVID when things were looking real bleak and whatever, and had some guys around the table, and you had one guy who was like, yeah, man, things are just, super tight. You guys finding as well, there's no work around and no one's wanting to do anything. And another guy was like, no, I think there's money lying all over the floor, man. I just got to pick it up. Yeah. Like, it's just like, what a contrast in that 6 people around the table, And
that's, I sort of looked at that 3 years ago and I said, let's say we do have another COVID or another GFC or something, what is going to protect Zanetto Builders? I said, wealthy cash-funded clients, because people with money are always going to have money. So direct your brand towards security, which is sort of what we're doing now. Whereas if your model is 2,000 spec homes for people looking for the first homeowners grant, if interest rates go up and we've got this huge crisis, your market's dead in the water. And then you're putting off hundreds of staff. So you've always got to think about when shit goes wrong, how you survive and what your contingencies are.
What excites you most about the future, and what future are you predicting or seeing?
I just want to see the people in and around me grow. like in my team. So obviously I talked about getting other owners in and seeing people within my team expand and their knowledge. And I think that one thing I picked up from someone at a breakfast the other month, I said, how do you keep everyone in your team? Like, I hate losing staff, but it's part of what we do. He's like, you've always got to have the ability to grow.
Yep.
And you've always got to offer more than what they can get off of someone
runway.
else. So my sort of thing is I want to build a business that's profitable enough so that I can pay them more than any other business would. I can give them more opportunities to learn than any other business, and I can give them opportunities to step up throughout the company. And for me to be able to do that, I can't stay as that 10-man company. I've got to open up branches, or I've got to look at going to commercial, which we're doing this year, and I've got to keep stepping it up. And then, like, cool, Kyle's going to step into Future Builder, so now we've got the opportunity for general managers to step up and be area managers or state managers or whatever it is. Like, if you're not growing and moving forward, you get stagnant and you get complacent, and then you want to go find something that's exciting. That's just human nature. So that sort of excites me and is the future of Zanetto Builders. Whether we come to mainland or not, don't know yet. That's why I'm here, maybe. And then Future Builder it's all about giving back and just building a strong community of people that care, and then protecting the next. Not protecting is the right word, but providing a place for the next generation of builders to come through and not fail. And I think it's not a difficult task. Now that social media and that's so prevalent, like if we can't go and put Future Builder in front of every single builder in Australia, we're doing something wrong, because it's just a matter of ad spend and going through the right networks. So once we can sort of do that, and then I don't know, we might replicate the model and push it into every continent around the world, because it'll work. It's the same thing, but just with a different currency and a different set of guidelines. So don't really know. It's sort of Future Builder is the future. It's all woozy fuwazi.
I like that.
But it's exciting. Like, it gets me out of bed.
That's epic. Man, Kyle, huge thank you for coming on the podcast today. Giving us your time, talking about both Zanetto Builder and Future Builder. It's been extraordinary. Thanks for sharing a lot of just being so transparent, I think, has been really refreshing. You got nothing to hide, and you want to share as much of your knowledge and experience with the next generation. So excited for the future.
No, appreciate you having me. And for anyone that's listening, I'm always open to a phone call or an Instagram DM. So shoot one through to Zanetto Builders or Future Builder. So Zanetto Builders on Instagram, website, Future Builder, Instagram, website. If you're having issues in your business or you're going through any of the sort of things that I just spoke about, pick up the phone, chew my ear off. I've sort of been through most things that I think people will sort of go through. So there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you.
Cheers.